Oh, okay. At least now we figured it out. All is good.
Yep.
But okay, so I guess if you want to, we can just start off with like if you want to just talk about like your a little bit about yourself and just your campaign and everything. Little overshot of what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, so my name is Sydney Satalino, and I am an autistic and diabetic lesbian who is starting my own political party and running for president in 2040, which sounds insane, but it's the first year I'm eligible. So I was like, why not? Basically, I was fed up with the way that people, like the people of America, especially the ones who aren't insanely rich, are treated. Our rights are seen as expendable, and we are pretty much seen as less than. And the two parties only pander to us when they need our votes, but in reality, they're funded by all these corporations who actually help. So our government is for the corporations and not the people, and that's what my party and my campaign is all about, me wanting to change this and me wanting the people to unite and fight back against the corporations that have ruined our lives.
Yeah, that's also like speaks to me a lot because I didn't start getting into like advocacy until I started college. I started college during COVID. So I started in 2020 and I didn't realize how inaccessible things were, like mostly on the physical side because I use a walker like the majority of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you never realize how much um I guess you take things for granted a lot of the times until you realize when you're being put into it for the first time, and it's just I'm fed up. I'm also fed up just with how little good treatment that those with disabilities get, especially because our group of people are the most unavoidable group of people that everyone is like everyone's going to be disabled at some point, and it's just like especially with like elder people are treated so awful, even though it's just basic things are just
Mm-hmm.
not are just not looked at as needs, and it's just everyone's so focused on the wrong stuff, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like especially with like like same like with queer rights, all of that, just like everybody's so worried about all the wrong things, but isn't like trying to make anything better. And like I like a lot of what you bring up about like corporations are a big issue because they're taking so much away from everybody. And it's like right now, like I'm a big like movie and like theater person, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
notice until now with the strike how much corporations have taken away from all of
Mm-hmm.
that. All the entertainment industry has been extremely messed up too, just because of what's
Yeah.
been taken. Like I don't understand why people like just don't want to cater to everybody, especially with accessibility. It ends up being like effective for everybody in the long run. I've seen a post recently. Let me see if I can find it, but it was saying ultimately saying how things are. It's accessible, but and then it's like oh yeah, so it says it's accessible once you get up the stairs. It's not accessible. It's accessible if you have someone to help you. It's not accessible. It's accessible if you can leave behind your mobility aids. It's not accessible. And like, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like, especially a lot of it accessibility I've noticed is like just like the basic things like handle grab bars in the bathrooms and stuff, but then the doors most of the time, if there is doors to get to like bathrooms, you can't open them. Like they're just extremely heavy, and it beats the whole purpose. Even if there is a handicap stall inside, it doesn't help. It's just yeah, there needs to be a lot of work. My main thing that I am like big on is accessibility, just because it affects me the most, but also it's just something that's crazy that isn't thought about well enough, especially within DEI, because now like the A part of that is gone. Not enough people care about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to I always wondered like what your if you have any like now plans about like how you wanna fix anything related to how disabled people are being treated, especially on the accessibility side of stuff.
Yeah, of course. So I completely understand as a person with autism and a person who has type 1 diabetes and someone who's had experience of like people with mobility aids, people with wheelchairs, like stuff like that. I know that our buildings and pretty much everything around that is totally inaccessible. They claim to conform to the ADA, but in reality, they don't, and they only do the bare minimum to accommodate people. Something that I'm really passionate about when it comes to accessibility is accessibility in schools, because pretty much every kid in America goes to a school, and it's very inaccessible and very overwhelming for a lot of people. I struggled throughout all of grade school due to bullying and teachers and people not really understanding my neurodivergence and the school administration being very ableist. And it was not a great experience. So, something that I would definitely want to change is definitely make schools more fair for disabled people. We also need we also need more ways that people with physical disabilities who use mobility aids can get around in schools, because I had a friend throughout middle school and high school. She was a wheelchair user, and there was only one elevator in our two-story high school, and at one point the elevator broke, and she couldn't get to her class on the second floor because the elevator was broke. So that made me so mad finding that out. So I definitely want to expand like access for like people with mobility aids to get up if they have to, because not just one elevator can't do it. And sorry if I'm going on for too long. I also believe that something that like is annoying with disabled people is that, did you know that disabled people can be legally paid less than the minimum wage?
I figured that out recently and that baffled me. That's awful.
Yeah. So they pretty much put them into like these specific factories that are government approved to pay them less than minimum wage, which is awful. And so I definitely want to close all those factories and make it illegal for people with disabilities to not be paid le less than the minimum wage. And I also want to make getting jobs easier for disabled people. And I also, in general, I have this policy where uh, the CEO of the company can only be paid 20 times more the lowest paid employee. So that would also be great for disabled people. So they will be paid fairly to able-bodied counterparts with the same amount of work. I also, regarding neurodivergence and stuff, I want to make things everywhere more accommodating for us, because a lot of times like with accommodations they're given to like people who are like blind or hard of hearing, but not really like any like neurodivergent specific accommodations, especially in public places, which can make things very overwhelming, and people like facilities don't understand how to train to like handle neurodivergent people, especially if they're like having a meltdown and stuff. And I've definitely had to deal with that a lot. So I definitely want to put plans in place to address that. And also, speaking of that, and back to the school point, a lot of the times people with disabilities are suspended a lot, because if they have like meltdowns and stuff, then the school interprets that as them being a bad person and not that they need help. So I definitely want to put more support in there and like implement restorative justice instead of like punishment, because a lot of times like disabled people are punished simply for, you know, having a meltdown that they can't control, and they need to be helped. They can't be, you know, dealt with that way. And what else do I have regarding disability? There's a lot that I want to cover because obviously as a disabled person, I really want to change a lot of these things. And but yeah, also I this isn't really disability specific, but I feel like it would help people with a lot of disabilities. I want to create a nationalized, decentralized, universal healthcare plan that pretty much gives people with disabilities and pretty much everyone free healthcare so that they don't have to pay an arm and a leg just to get by. I'm diabetic, so I have to pay like thousands of dollars extra a month just for my insulin pumps and my insulin and all that stuff that I need to live, and it can get really frustrating. And I've always worried about what happens if I turn 26 and I'm kicked off my parents' insurance and I can't get off my up my feet and I'll have to struggle. And that really scares me. And no one with a disability should be scared just so they can get the medicine that they need to live. So that's also something that I'm really passionate about. So yeah, I think that's pretty much like the top things I think I would do that would help the disability community. So yeah, sorry if I rambled for too long.
Oh no, not at all. I think you brought up like a lot of important parts, especially like I never realized like with yeah, like how you said with insulin or with even with EpiPen, like you have to
Mm-hmm.
pay so much for those just to live, even though they're like like the equivalent to groceries or even like feminine products are not at all
Yeah.
um, easy accessible either, even though they're literally all of these things are inevitable or just unavoidable things that you need to live, yet
Yeah.
they're made so hard to access. And then I felt the second floor thing with your friend because my high school was really big and it also had two floors and we only had one elevator. And the thing with that is actually the school used to be smaller and the part where the elevator is now is part of the new added version of the school that wasn't even built until I was born. So it's just I couldn't imagine what they did before that. But I guess like
Yeah.
just to get to even the bottom floor because it had I felt it wasn't one level I don't think, but just I couldn't imagine and I had to figure things out because luckily I can do steps, but I have to have someone help me to carry my walker down. And a lot of the times I had to do steps because the elevator was inconveniencing. It wasn't even accessible at that point because it was on the whole other side of the school, which is ultimately why I ended up opting out of gym because it would have been hard for me to do it in high school anyway. But mostly I opted out of it because it would have been too hard to get to all the time. It's just like
Yeah, I get that.
it couldn't be a thing. I luckily I don't think I've had an issue ever, at least in school, with elevators not working, or at least if they're not working, I've been lucky someone can help me. But I know like people with wheelchairs, there's literally only so much you can do, and it's an extreme
Yeah.
liability issue. It's an extreme liability issue if you have to end up carrying them, and it's just like I can't believe that people, yeah, you have to deal with that on a normal basis. And at my college, we have elevators, and they're usually always good. But the weird thing about our buildings is most of the buildings are connected to each other, but they're offset. So, like our classroom building to our science building is connected, but you can't get there from the elevator. But they have this. There is this very old school lift that works enough. It's just like it's more accessible than that elevator thing though, because at least it's like not completely out of the way but when it's not working it is. But that's very rare and usually they're good about telling you about it because I'm like the only one that uses it. So it's not
Yeah.
too bad, but it's just like something to think about. It's really old school. Like it's just a typical. like lift that you think about for like more of a cargo thing. Like if you're traveling, it's
Yeah.
like janitors or people are traveling in between the buildings, but it's better than nothing because if that's not working, then I have to like walk all the way around the whole building just to get to where I'm going. So it's a lot easier,
Yeah.
which is that's very helpful. And yeah, accessibility is just like things like that, like the elevator, that would just help anybody. Cause I can only imagine like the janitors too. Like if they have them big carts, you cannot carry that type of stuff down the steps. And like
Yeah.
the having accessible buttons and like automated doors and everything, like it helps so much. And I don't think, and a lot of people, especially when it comes to autistic individuals, are seen as like we're getting more help or more rights than like the rest of the able-bodied community. Where in reality, we're getting the same amount of rights, be equal or as close to equal as possible. Accommodations aren't meant to make us have more help and like we're getting more. We're just getting the help that we need to be at your level. It's just and it's disheartening with how a lot of um, specifically like autistic people are treated in schools nowadays, and I never realized how much it actually like what all it consisted of until my one of my friends is
Yeah.
newly like self-diagnosed autistic, and we talk about neurodivergence all the time, and I just never realized how much it really affects, and like especially with like sensory issues are a big one that
Mhm.
I've noticed that people just do not understand. Even if you're able-bodied, like sensory issues are just can be a normal part of life, but then people don't understand how others are just more sensitive to certain things, and it's really not hard for the most part to just cater in the way that
Yeah.
you can. So I understand,
Hmm.
like for the most part, I'm sure I have some, but I'm not like not all the time, so I don't think about it. But it's just it is definitely something to think about because it's just schools in general have failed those with disabilities in more ways than one, and that's awful
Yeah.
too.
Hmm.
It's just yeah, I don't know. I probably have a lot I can say about that too, but just a lot of it stems down from simple things like just being able to get into the room. Like half the bathroom doors, I don't take my walker in with me just because it's more work to do it. Luckily, I have my own mobility. Like I can get around. It's just it shouldn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's yeah, that's a lot of what this is. Disheartening how it's just it shouldn't be like that. Yeah, you can have someone to help you, but it's not accessible if you can't get through it without someone helping you.
Hmm.
It strips us from like our independence and everything. And
Yeah.
that's awful. I don't know. Do you have anything else you think about on this topic? If not, we can move on to another.
Yeah. 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 You can ask me another question.
See, so another thing that I'm like super worried about is like right now with like the transgender rights, just the LGBTQ plus in general. I'm just wondering how you plan to handle like just anything related to that, just so we can like hold human rights and everything.
Yeah, of course. So this is something that is not lost on me. If I win the 2040 election, I will be the first openly lesbian person to have the office of president in any country. And I will also be the first openly queer president of the United States. So that is a big deal. And obviously, being openly queer in a position like that, I would definitely want to use it for the greater good to help push our rights through. So, one thing that I would love to do is I am going to codify same-sex marriage in the Constitution so that so that the Supreme Court can never overturn it, because there has been a lot of talk about them potentially wanting to revisit the issue, because the fact is our right to marry is it's hanging on by a thread. It was decided by like one vote during the Obama era, so it's very flimsy and it could get overturned at any second, which is very scary. But also there needs to be more of a legal basis on this essential right. So I will codify that, and I want to make it legal for basically trans people everywhere to have the health care that they need, because that's an issue that has been over politicized. Just people trying to get health care, which it's insane that they're like saying, oh, if we take away healthcare for all trans people, we'll just erase transness and everything will be fine. No, that's not how it works. People are actually trans, and you are causing a whole culture war with that, which I have my gripes with how the Democrats and the Republicans have been creating a whole culture war out of queer people and not doing anything to advance our rights, and instead using us to get votes on both sides, which is annoying. But I will actually push protections for trans people in all 50 states. So they'll be able to get healthcare. They'll be able to change their gender on essential documents everywhere. They'll be able to play sports in the correct gender. They'll be able to use the bathroom without fear of having security called on them. So basically, trans people will have a much better quality of life than they do now under my leadership. And I also believe that there should be LGBTQ non-discrimination laws enshrined in federal law, because they actually last year the Supreme Court ruled that people can discriminate based on if you're LGBTQ. And while people talked about it for a week and then moved on, they've been wanting us to forget. They've been wanting us to, feel like, okay, we still have rights because the White House does like surface level pride events, when in reality we are in a lower class of citizenship, because we are the only like minority group that at this point can be legally discriminated against if they have a religious viewpoint. So I believe that we should definitely overturn that, and that queer people shouldn't be discriminated in any way. And also just opening dialogue with like straight people and queer people, and like showing that we're not this scary creature that the media makes us in this culture war, because we're people too. And unfortunately, a lot of like the media has been dividing queer people with like religious people, or like people in red states and people in blue states. And I want to unite the whole country, regardless of, if you're gay or straight or anything like that. And a lot of people don't see like queer people or trans people as like worthy of, having the respect. And I'll definitely work on changing that. And foreign policy wise, I definitely want it might sound like an ambitious goal, but I want same-sex marriage to be legal and for queer rights to be in every single nation by the time my presidency is over. So that's a little ambitious, but if I can achieve worldwide queer rights for all, that would be something that I'd be very proud of foreign policy wise. So yeah.
Yeah, I can see why you would think it would be ambitious, but like it's a good goal to have, because even though your main focus is on America, it is important to still think about the whole world, because it's awful, absolutely awful how horrible the rights are outside of here, let alone where we are now. And like the whole bathroom debacle is so harmful and so weird right now. Especially
Yeah.
it affects cisgender people too, because there's a lot of us that like will we agree with like what we were born with, but look opposite. And it's like I've seen videos of it, of people like using getting harassed, even if they do what you want them to do. It's just like you shouldn't get harassed just having basic
Yes,
access to the bathroom. Like it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And it's always
exactly.
and it's always mostly like a target to trans women since with with all the issues we have with men too now, and it's just hard. It's just so hard, and it's just like it
Yeah.
shouldn't be like that. And it's just like in
Yeah.
general, like I don't like locally I haven't like noticed it like personally, but it's worrisome like that it could be, especially with people I just know is regarding like a lot of the trans issues because people just want to act like it doesn't exist, and it
Yeah.
very well does. I'm actively in a human sexuality class, and it's just mind boggles me. Like sex ed is entirely awful now. Like people want to try to say that sex and gender are the same thing. They are not, and there's not just the two.
Yeah.
Intersex people are forgotten in more ways than one, and that's not even just physical aspects of stuff, but there's like hormonal things that people
Mm-hmm.
forget, and it's not cool because also like healthcare comes into play because then if there's not enough people who know how to treat people who are intersex since they have multiple characteristics of both, and it's just like in general, like the whole healthcare problem, you shouldn't have a hard time getting healthcare just because of who you are. It should
Yeah,
it should
definitely
just
in
be
the
basic.
healthcare program that I'm working on, it won't be that way. You can get healthcare pretty much whoever you are, and even if you're intersex, even if you're trans, then they will be trained to help you with that because that's how healthcare should be.
Right. Like I'm glad I have like Medicaid, but I got that through Social Security, and I'm still my mom's plan as well until I'm like yeah until I'm 26, and that's crazy to think. I'm gonna because like I take too much medicine to not be on Medicaid. And like
Yeah.
only one of them is not covered, but that's because I take two like there's two stomach medicines, so it's understandable. But where my grandma works at the pharmacy that I go to, so I think I get it kind of cheaper, which is a plus. But not everyone is that lucky to just get
Yeah.
life saving stuff.
Exactly. And that's exactly like pretty much everything, like the healthcare situation, people with disabilities being exploited and harassed and not treated right, the queer community being used as a political prop by both sides of the aisle. Like all of this is because of the main crux of my campaign, the biggest issue that I focus on, which is the corporate rule of America and the corporations that lobby all the people in the two-party system to get their way. And they pretty much block all the progress, leaving the people of America to suffer, especially the marginalized people. And that's exactly what my campaign's about. It's about fighting for the common man and woman of America. It's about fighting for the people that deserve rights, that deserve better, that deserve to be living in the richest, most prosperous, country in the world without having to worry about if they don't have human rights or if they can't afford things or if they'll be able to have the healthcare that they need. Like this should be stuff that should have been figured out a long time ago, but because of this corporate corruption and lobbying, it has not been figured out when the solutions are so simple. And that is why I'm so passionate about changing this country and making everything better. And I really, really hope that every disabled person and every queer person and every person in general in America who is a part of the 99%, who is a part of the common mass of America, decides to stand up and fight and join me to change your world for the better.
I absolutely love the enthusiasm you have because it's needed. Oh my.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry I cut off. We have like 10 minutes left, but
Yeah.
we can finish wrap this up. This has definitely been really really, really great to do. Like I'm
Hmm.
like I'm definitely like considering how young you are. You're freshly out of adulthood, and you're very passionate about making the world a better place. And that's just what we're all trying to do. And we live
Hmm.
in the land of the free, but we're not really free in any aspect.
Hmm.
No one's free unless you're, for the most part, a white cisgender man, because the rules
Who's
and the laws
rich?
and everything, yeah,
Yeah.
are very much catered to the rich, and it's just money has ruined everybody. It
Yeah.
can be helpful. It can be very helpful when it's not balanced. Like it's just not balanced at all
Hmm.
properly right now. It's just yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, some groups of people should get paid more if they do a higher job, but it shouldn't be so much that people can't get their basic needs. You can just simply
Yeah.
trying to decide between paying for rent or for groceries, and it's just that shouldn't be a thing. And that's what we're doing here today. That we're working together, finally actually make a true progressive party and move forward rather than going more back and even more forward than we are now. So many people are trying
Hmm.
to push so much stuff that will just make things go extremely down. We just don't need that. And I'm glad to see how passionate you are about trying to do this, and especially doing it early, because it gives you a lot more time to actually plan and process everything so you have a better chance in the future. And it just gives you time to actually flesh everything out. And that's that's also really important.
Thank you.
Of course. Um, but do you have any leaving words, I would say?
Well, I'd say go follow me on Instagram and TikTok. My username is Sydney for America. And if you're interested in joining my party and volunteering, email joinsydney2040@gmail.com. So, and then we will talk and you'll get started. So yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. I'm glad that we got to finally figure this out, and I'll tag everything when I eventually post this as well, so people have easier access to all the video, all your socials, so we can get some more people on it. So
Perfect.
yeah. Well, I hope you have a great night. It was nice talking to you. I will talk to you later.
Okay, talk later. Bye.
Bye.